All right, last time we learned, let's look at yesterday. We learned yesterday a Mishnah from two people, Rabbi Levitas and Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruka. Remember yesterday, Rabbi Levitas said you have to be very, very humble because in the end, what's waiting for you is the worms. Don't think you're a big shot. Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruka said, anyone who disgraces God, the Torah, Judaism, even if he does it in the inner room where nobody sees it, eventually he's going to get repaid in public. Something will happen, right? He smokes a cigarette on Shabbos quietly in his room. The rabbi goes to whatever it is, the golf course, puts on a wig or something, and he golfs on Yom Kippur. Don't worry, eventually it's going to be revealed. And this is what we did yesterday. It doesn't make any difference if it was accidental, if it was on purpose. Disgracing the name of God is a bad thing. Bad thing. Whether you did it on purpose, you said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. All the excuses are wonderful. You don't get punished, you go to heaven. But nevertheless, you desecrated God's name. You made, how do you say, God look cheap. Okay, next. The Rebbe especially had that thing about giving lands away to the Arabs, and that the religious parties also, they okayed it because they got all sorts of benefits. The same thing with Mihu Yehudi, to declare how do you say, to be lenient in the laws of conversion. So even though they did it at good reasons, they have all sorts of excuses and all sorts of, they found all sorts of rabbis from generation that says, okay, nevertheless, it's what's called a Chilul Hashem, and there's no excuse for it. Okay, Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael was the son of, remember we just had here, of Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruka. Rabbi Yishmael, what does he say, Rabbi Yishmael? He said, a person who learns Torah in order just to teach others. Right, what's the purpose of the Torah? Person is supposed to learn Torah in order to do what it says in the Torah. Right? You're supposed to do what it says in the Torah, to live way of the Torah. But a person can say, listen, the Torah is wise. The Torah is complicated. The Torah is very academic. I'm going to be the big expert in the Torah. I'm going to write all sorts of books. But if I do what it says there, that's my business. That's my business. That's not my business. I am going to learn Torah, al-manat, in order to teach others. So you might think, well, God will punish this guy, right? His tongue will fall out. No, that's not the way God works. By speaking biyado, he is empowered to learn and to teach. He gets what he wants. You want to teach others? But alomed al-manas lasod, a person who learns Torah in order to do what it says in the Torah, speaking biyado, in other words, he wants to be not just a teacher of others what to do, but he wants to do himself. He wants to do what God says. He wants to be a pupil of God. That's his thing. He's going to be a pupil. He's always going to be a pupil. He'll be a pupil of God. He says, I want to just learn the Torah in order to know what to do. Then, by speaking biyado, then he is given the opportunity, lilmod, to learn, lilamed, to teach others. So he gets the same thing as this one does, lishmor v'lasot, and also to refrain from doing prohibitions, and he has to do positive things. So in other words, you'll have time and energy to do it all, but mainly you'll be genuine. Maybe we'll look at the Bartanur a little bit and we'll see what. Rabbi Tzadok said, Al Ta'asam. There's different versions of it. Don't make them. Don't make the Torah. The words of the Torah, Atara litgadel b'hem, a crown to make yourself great. Right? You become a person, you know the whole Torah, and therefore you want to. I just heard somebody give a lecture. It was, it was sort of tragic to see this person, but he was saying that it was, how strict you have to be with your wife, This was not, it happened to be that it was not anybody from Chabad. Anyway, I think, let's not get into it anyway. So he said, when I come into the house, my wife has to know that it's a walking Sefer Torah that's coming into the house. She has to be afraid, filled with fear. Okay, listen. I don't know. Maybe it's it might be a nice idea. I don't really know. I don't know anybody that this happens to. But the fact of the matter is that even if it's true and your wife does want to give you all sorts of honors and everything, that's wonderful because the man does learn Torah and Torah, but it's not a thing you demand. You don't demand a thing like that. If you have to demand it, it means that something is missing with you. No, something is missing with my wife. Okay. It says you should not use the words of the Torah to aggrandize yourself with them. Below kardom, and not to make the Torah should not be like a big axe, lachfor, whatever it is, a shovel, lachfor by him, to dig with them. In other words, don't use the Torah as a weapon or as a tool to make yourself great or to make yourself rich. And Hillel used to say, "Dishtamish bataga," a person who uses the crown, chalif, will go away. He'll, how do you say, evaporate. You use the crown of the Torah for your own purposes, as the outcome is anything except for what you want. Halamarta, so you learn, Torah, if you get pleasure from the words of Torah, no tel chayav mina olam, his life is removed from the world. Some people say this means the world to come. Let's just do a little bit of the Bar Tanura. Let's see how we can incorporate this into our day-to-day life. Well, Rambam is a lot over here, huh? Well, it looks like we won't be able to do that either. Here, let's do a little bit. A person who learns in order to teach. This is what it means. A person who learns that he should be always learning Torah, and his mind will not be, and not to do good deeds to others. Like it says, there was a person, Rabbah, when he worked at Torah. Some says Rabbah Bar Nachmani. That's right, Rabbah Bar Nachmani. That it says over there in the Gemara that he learned Torah, but he didn't do acts of kindness. He figured he was doing the world big enough favor just by learning Torah. So even though that a person should, that a person is required to do acts of kindness, but nevertheless, he's doing wrong. But God, nevertheless, something he wants to teach others Torah, so God enables him to learn the Torah. In other words, even though his intentions are not 100% right, but nevertheless, God gives him what he wants. And so therefore, what his desires he should want, he just underestimated himself. But a person who learns Torah in order to do, namely he wants to do and give good deeds to others, like Abaya, who was the learning partner of Rabbah. He wants to learn Torah and also do good deeds and give charity. So he is enabled, God enables him to also complete his thought, and his wishes will come true. He'll be able to learn Torah and to teach others and to do the commandments and help others and avoid bad. Some people say, Mafarshim means Almanas Lalamed, he's learning the Torah in order to teach. What does it mean to teach? That everyone will stand up for him when he comes in. He will be called rabbi. And they say is not given and they say that not that he is enabled to do. Right? What do we say? A person who learns in order just to teach, God allows him to teach. But other people say no. What it means, if he learns Torah in order to teach so that everyone will call him rabbi, it'll be a big shot. And there's other Mishnahs what says, Ein Masbikim, he is not given the chance to do it. But he said, I found books that were like that, but I don't think that's correct. Says you should not use the Torah, a crown. Don't say, Elmad, I will learn in order that I will be called rabbi, I'll be called great. Everyone will stand up in front of me, I'll be important. But you should learn from the Torah from love. And in the end, if you do this, then honor will come. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much.